Hey everybody, this is Dave from West Texas Bugs. Today I'm going to tie a caddis pattern. It's a Norwegian fly called a Dyret, and D-Y-R-E-T, which translates into the animal. And I'm going to tie it on the hook I have in the vise here is an MLO 52, number 12. And I'm going to use for thread, I'm going to use the Simperfly waxed in 12-aught in rust. So let me go ahead and get started, and I'll tell you a little something about this fly. I'm going to start my thread right behind the eye and do nice flat wraps coming back. I was fishing on the Boise River, the South Fork of the Boise this weekend, and on Saturday we were fishing along. We were doing okay. I was fishing the back of the boat, so I wasn't catching quite as many as the guy in the front. I looked in my box, and my good friend Pete Steen had tied one of these years ago, a couple of years ago at the Wasatch Expo, and he'd given it to me. I had it in my box. I found it, pulled it out, tied it on, and immediately caught a fish on it. And then I caught 3 or 4 more fish on it, as fairly quickly. So I started thinking about that a little bit and thinking, maybe I should do a video of this fly. Anyway, so what I have here is just elk hair. You can use whatever kind of hair you'd like. This is just a nice patch of elk. And what I'm going to do, I want a very short tail on this fly. So I'm going to hold it right behind the eye, and you can see my tail just barely comes off the back. Okay, so that's about how long I want it. I'm going to go ahead and flatten my thread out. Bring it back forward. I have a nice cushiony thread base here for my hair, and I'm going to bring my thread to about an eye length back from the front. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go around my clump of elk hair one time, bring it down onto the hook shank, and then I'll go ahead and flare it. I don't want to flare it too much, because if I do, the butt ends will point backwards and they'll be really hard to wrap. As I wrap back, I'm lifting this clump at kind of a 45 right up off the top of the shank, so it stays right on top. Get rid of this guy. And I'll bring it back to where my tail is. Okay, there we go. Nice short tail. Bring my thread back forward. Now if you compress this, which you can, I've seen some people do that, and then I've also heard people talk about leaving a little bit of air in between the elk fibers. So I didn't really crank down on it. Alright, so now I'll take my butt ends. I'm going to do a couple of wraps underneath, and then I'm going to do a wrap right behind. And try to keep these a little bit forward, just out of my way. Alright, I'm going to come back to the back. Okay, now I want to try to flare my tail just a little bit. So put a little bit of pressure, flare it up just a little bit there. That's good. Alright. Come back over my body one more time just to get a little bit more uniform. Okay, and at this point I want to make sure that my tail did not rotate really. Make sure it's up on the top. Okay. For a hackle, I'm going to use just a furnace hackle. You can use whatever color you like. It's a nice red furnace. Okay, so I'm going to strip off some of the end here, bare a little bit of stem. And I like to tie these in kind of straight up and down, almost at a 90 degree. Okay. My thread back. And then for dubbing, I'm going to use Semperfli's Pale Olive. There we go. It's a fine dubbing. It's really not that pale. It's still pretty, got a nice rich color to it. Okay, and I'm not really that interested in making a taper on this fly. I just want a nice cylindrical body. I'll put my dubbing on nice and thin, very tight. Try to keep it as uniform as I can. Okay, see how far that gets us. Slide my dubbing noodle up to the fly. Make sure my first wrap is right in front of that tail. Just try to do nice uniform wraps coming forward. Okay, I want just a little bit more right behind. I don't want that thread to show through. I'm going to put on just a tiny bit more. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to just put a half hitch underneath my butts and right over the eye of my hook. My thread out of the way and wrap my hackle. I like the one that I fished on Saturday was hackled very closely together. It was palmered, but they're pretty tight wraps. So and you know, also there was no rib in this fly. And I've seen some other tyers tie this fly on YouTube, and I've not seen anybody do a rib. It makes sense that if you were to counter rib this, that you would increase the durability of your fly, but the one that I fished was not ribbed, and I can tell you it accounted for several fish. So I'm going to do it the same way. All right, so I'm going to bring my thread in, go behind my hackle 2 times, nice and firm, and then I'm going to do one locking wrap right in front. Okay, go ahead and remove the waste piece. All right, now I just need to build a little bit of a head, whip finish this. So I'm going to bring my thread in. And at this point, if you're kind of crowded here and it's going to be a little bit of a pain to whip finish, go ahead and just use your half hitch tool. And that'll put your wraps right where you want them. It'll also kind of elevate your butt ends. Do about 6 half hitches. Remove my thread nice and short. Okay, now what I need to do is make a head. And so this is just like an Alcaire caddis head, except it's a little bit larger. So I'm going to get all my butt ends, pull them up, and come in at about the same angle as the hook eye. And there we are. Okay, so it's a nice thick head. I've got one hackle fiber coming out. And that is a Dyret. That's an animal. Fish it. I think you'll find out it is an animal. Thanks for watching.